I was involved in the very beginning of Wawasan Penabur. Roshan and I, we were traveling in a car and we were talking about how there were so many Christians in Malaysia who speak Bahasa and yet they didn't have discipleship materials. And so we thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we could convene a group of people to talk about this, to pray about this, and to see what would happen.
Because he knew of other people that was also producing Bahasa materials. Say, why don't we all gather together? One guy in Sabah, Lam Ki Hing, a lady, Hui Yong, put them all together and see whether together we can collaboratively build a platform or something to enable us to scale up the production of Christian literature in Bahasa.
And so we brought them together for our first meeting and we talked about why there's an urgent need to do so. And one person from Sabah said that 7 out of 10 people in East Malaysia did not have access to the Bible.
We visited a library, quite a big library, and we asked the librarian who was showing us around, take us to where the Bahasa book is being displayed. And he took us, a fair distance. We come to a corner and then there was one shelf out of 50, 60 shelves. You look at the majority of them were Indonesian books.
The whole landscape of discipleship material in Bahasa Malaysia was just fragmented. You would find somebody who wrote a book, published about 50 books or 100 books in some one corner.
I come from an assembly, a Bahasa speaking assembly, and one of the things that we struggle with is we don't have enough content in Bahasa. And so we started a small little church producing Bahasa material. But it's not scalable and it was time consuming.
The statistic says that 7 out of 10 people from East Malaysia were losing their faith as they moved from East Malaysia to West Malaysia. And we felt that we need some way to bring all this literature together, bring the people together. And I think one of the biggest things that Wawasan Penabur has done is to become that one center where people can rally to see, here is where you can get discipleship material in Bahasa. And we talked a lot about the challenges, we talked a lot about the opportunities, we even crafted a vision. But then along the way, Chien was the one who said, enough talking. If we talk, we won't end talking. So let's take a plastic bag. And then they passed it around to about 8 people.
Each of us make a commitment as to the amount of seed capital this group is willing to come up with.
Half of us were unemployed, the other quarter were working for NGOs. To me, it's one of those marks of faith where you see God working.
Just from that meeting alone, we came up with 25,900. That was our seed capital, showing the seriousness of the few of us.
So now we got the money, but then the key question was, who would step up? Because none of us seem to be called to doing it.
I think one of the biggest challenges is to find the right leaders to take this vision. We set up a small organization. Initially it was called BMP Ministries, Bahasa Malaysia Publications, and later we renamed it Wawasan Penabur. Penabur is a sower and Wawasan is a vision. So the vision of a sower to continue to do the work among this Bahasa speaking community. Chow Chien, he said, look, if it's really a ministry of the Lord, he will find a way to raise the right people, the right resources, the right funding to enable this to happen. We finally found a really amazing leader in Randy Sinkate to scale to the way that we have 300 over 1,000 AKKs into the hands of children. It took us about a year of gestating the idea, and then somewhere in January of 2009 is where Wawasan Penabur birthed.
But we did engage with some heads, some leaders of the Bahasa Church and presented our vision and idea. We wanted to produce discipleship material in Bahasa. I was a bit disappointed because we didn't get the idea that it was received well at that time. There was a lot of import restriction from the traditional source of the Bahasa material, which is coming from Indonesia. A lot of books are not able to get into the country. So the idea is to be able to produce some of these books locally. Probably we won't have that importation issue. Our business model was not to make money, but also not to lose money. When we have an official launch, we invited Reverend Hua Yong. And Hua Yong shared that God was trying to tell him something, and that something was, this is my project, I am in it, my name will be glorified by it. And after the launch, he came down and he was asking us, how many books are you all producing? 5,000 copies. And he said, what? Only 5,000 copies? You got to do a lot more than that. Is it money? Of course, it was money. We all met after that. We're now going to find a financial sponsor. We're going to have this bold vision of Satu Anak, Satu Alkitab. And we're going to offer that Bible at 5 ringgit each, which means a 10 ringgit sponsor for every book.
It became a little bit more complicated as we went down the years. Now it's 100,000, now it's 300,000. How do you really distribute it in the interior of Sabah and Sarawak?
If you think about Sabah and Sarawak, the number of rivers, the number of villages where you have got to hire a boat, go up, and it's just not scalable.
You need to actually mobilize the entire body of Christ in Malaysia to get to that point. We're not pushing it out in bookstores. We're actually bringing the books in to you in your long or your kampong. Throughout our history, it's always been a partnership. Or even cell groups, when they used to take holidays to say, let's go to Sarawak. And part of the holiday is to carry backpacks with our AKK and go deep into some village and distribute and teach people how to read. And it's just because we partnered the right people to enable us to do that. So when we first said, look, let's print 100,000, and then 100,000 is going to cost us 2 million. I mean, potentially 1.5 million and probably another $500,000 to distribute it. And then to think about it, in 2012, you had an election. These were used as gifts. 70,000 were distributed in Sarawak alone. And then to say, hey, we've got another order, we need to print another 100,000. Now we keep printing 30,000, Hey, any book in Malaysia, you distribute 300,000, you're super bestseller already, right? Thanks to all our partners, it's been totally funded. So to me, that was a big moment because it is totally not our doing. We cannot do such things. This is God, right? And that's it,
Randy and I, we were in this very poor Bible school. We met this senior student there, looking a little bit downcast. I asked him, what's the problem? From his pocket, he pulled out this envelope. It was a letter, it's a second reminder from the Bible school to pay up his last year's fees. Someone from my church asked, why don't you share about your trip on the Wednesday prayer meeting? So I shared. And there was one lady there who was so overcome by the Spirit of God. And she came up to me and said, no, I must sponsor that student. She went to her CG and the CG said, yeah, let's sponsor this student, which is about $400 a month. There are a lot more students who are in need. So we started seeking. In the last 3-4 years, we have supported 60 Bible school students, supported another 20 youth workers. And many of these are just connecting individuals and little groups directly to the need of the Bible school student.
But the idea is that if we can help bridge that, later what we do is we then go into the Bible school upon graduation, give these guys a whole pack, a compendium of books, so that when they go and set up their own, whether it's a remote village church or something, they actually have tools and content and material.
Whatever culture you come from, God's original design and purpose is to have all this group from different tribes and nations coming together in heaven to worship Him.
There is a purpose for why we are here. If you are responsive to the Spirit's slightest touch, He can lead us to places we would never expect.
God can take anyone and use us as a catalyst for His work. Continue to support Wawasan Penabo, but also make sure God uses you to fulfill the purpose that He's called you to.